We had 2 days with disturbance with the war in social media. And as the same in Venezuela, it was the first media war and coup that originated a documentary known as The Revolution Will Never Be Transmitted, by the attitude of the radio and the press and television. On the 28th and the 29th and 30th of July, it was the first coup, cyber coup and fascist coup that was implemented, that was intended to be implemented in Venezuela. And it was made here. Through all the social media ways, was a cyber war that they waged against us. Everything that has to deal with the electric power here in Venezuela. But our people were prepared. Our people conducted an electoral campaign, a very unique campaign, mobilized everybody, vindicating all the values of our culture with happiness. An electoral campaign positive, of debate, pedagogical, of heights. And our people was prepared to go to an election, but at the forefront, the dominant group of the far right, fascist far right, prepare themselves to go to a war. And those who are actually going out as Uribe Vélez, Ivan Duque, the paramilitary narco-trafficking oligarchy, they are now going desperate because they are defeated. But they were behind each of the details, each dollar that they put on, because they tried to fill with violence the country and to start an invasion of mercenary groups, of paramilitary groups from the Colombian territory to Venezuela. That's why it is very valuable. Professionals, police forces, professionals and soldiers of our armed forces, men and women of the people. That's why it is very valuable that in 48 hours, in perfect fusion, popular military and police forces, with the Constitution and law, and with the prevalence of human rights, we defeated and we control, neutralize, and defeat the outbreak of hatred and intolerance and violence, fascist violence, on the 29th, 30th of July and 28th of July, which had a very high impact in the national conscience. It was so impacted that practically from that day on, as of that day, please, Foreign Minister and comrades, the fascist sector of far right were excited. They had managed to accumulate forces through years to sow hatred and vengeance and intolerance in their networks. Deputies of opposition, of the opposition bloc who are present, they have managed polarize with our candidacy. But when the electors saw that their offer was based in deceit and in violence, when they saw the violent people in the front of the comanditos to destroy hospitals, schools, universities, to topple statue of Jorge Gregorio Hernandez, of the Simon Bolivar, Hugo Chavez, when they saw they burned more than 250 security modules of the police forces and the peace forces, when they saw how they killed 27 civilians on their back. These groups, these armed and criminal groups, a good part of the electors who I respect, who had voted for that candidacy, for that inexistent candidate, they simply were actually getting away from them. I said it. I remember the first month that we actually were on the streets, millions of people, women and men, on the 28th of August, and I said, La Sayona actually went overboard. The fascism went overboard, which were personalized. These characters, in its context, each person of a surname, representative of a surname, they were actually promoting the violence. Before it was Capriles, before it was Julio Borges, Leopoldo Borges, before it was Antonio Ledesma, before it was Alup. It was only 3 months of the assembly. I think it's more than 3 months that this assembly has been. And now the turn came to the most irrational group and more hatred group of this far-right people, of the oligarch far-right, which has gone over to their superior phase. As Lenin said in St. Petersburg, said that imperialism was the highest phase of capitalism. It was a very famous book, Ambassador. We could say the same thing, that according to the state of craziness, that these old drunk crazy guys, we could say that the craziness is the highest stage of fascism. We are in the highest stage of craziness, ready to face. They're ready to lie, to manipulate, and whatever ways they resort to take violence to Venezuela. So I give you a very good news. None of those alternatives, they couldn't. They haven't been able to, and they will ever be able to do it. They will never be able to take Venezuela to a destabilization stage. Venezuela wants peace. 7 years. 18, from the 18th to the 24th. We're now on the 8th year. As we count the independence years, as the federation's years are counted, our generation is counting with pride the years of peace, consolidated peace, with a great victory to build Venezuela. Venezuela came in 2024 to a consolidation, a very active consolidation of democracy, a very permanent democracy, because it's not any democracy. It's a democracy that has already passed all the tests, a democracy that has been sieged, a democracy that has been threatened, a democracy that has been attempted against. If somebody wants to talk about democracy and the strengthening of institutions and laws and society, we have to talk about Venezuela, because Venezuela has the most powerful democracy that has been known in all this continent and perhaps in all the world. A democracy which has been sieged, which has been aggressed, threatened, but of course functioning, working, very active. We actually had 31 elections, constitutional elections. We have this year 10 elections.